Hello and welcome to LabGab, a live stream variety show that showcases events, destinations, and different talents across Second Life. I'm your host, Strawberry Linden. Today on our show, we have Caitlin Tobias and Huckleberry Hacks here to talk about the upcoming feature-length sci-fi thriller STÖMOL, which is completely shot in Second Life. Welcome to the show, Caitlin and Huckleberry. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Caitlin is still there too, hopefully.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. Huckleberry, I can call you Huck, right? Just want to double check before we
Yeah, please
continue.
do. Yeah, please do.
Excellent. Thank you. So, can you both actually, before we get started, introduce yourselves to the viewers a bit, how long you've been in Second Life, how long you've been residents, and what do you do in this virtual world, and maybe even the physical world if you want to share. Caitlin, why don't you go first and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Um, I'm Caitlin Tobias. I am in Second Life resident since August 2007, so 30 years almost. I mostly spent my Second Life exploring regions, blogging about them. I love to go shopping, I love to go clubbing, and the past 5 years I have done photography for the Fantasy Fair, for their website of all the regions. And well, that's about it. I do the social media for Dutchy Furniture Store and homes building. And the past 18 months, I've been busy helping Huck with his movie.
I have to say, I love your blog. I followed it for years. I always find some great destinations on your blog. So, yeah, if you
uh,
haven't seen Caitlin's blog yet, check it out. It's in the description of the video. So, Huck, tell us about yourself.
I've been in SL since March 2007. Yeah, I think that's right. So 13 years. Um, I think by and large the main things I do is write. I've been writing uh, stories set in Second Life and other virtual worlds since more or less that. Yeah, I think November 2007 was the first book I wrote, and then more recently been getting more into photography, into virtual world photography, and I do a little bit of building on the side, but nothing that I could really hold up as being an example of particularly good quality work. And other than that, all of the usual kind of Second Life stuff, perhaps with the exception of shopping, which I'm not especially fond of.
So, we're all 2007 babies, I think. I'm from
Oh,
2000 as well. So,
oh,
you
cool.
wrote your first book about Second Life in 2000, like the first year you were a resident. I know that you've written a number of books with Second Life as a setting. How many have you written, and where can people get them?
I think I've actually lost count, and that sounds hugely an arrogant thing to say, but after a certain number, you do lose count. I think it's about 10, and they're all available as in a variety of electronic formats, and actually paperback as well. You can buy print versions. The print versions don't sell very many copies, but I have a trickle coming in from Amazon Kindle, and the first one that I wrote, which is probably the one that most people, if they've heard of me, will know of, is called AFK, and
Yes.
the kind of the story behind that was that it was getting close to one of my favorite times of year, National Novel Writing Month in November. And if you don't know about that, it's a time when people are set the challenge of writing a 50,000 word novel in 30 days. And so, having spent the preceding 6 months or so kind of becoming immersed in Second Life, I thought it would make a really good setting for a novel. So I wrote it then as kind of as an experiment, really, because I was just interested to see if people would be interested in that. I many years ago in my kind of real life world, I wrote a novel and went through the whole kind of route of trying to get it published by a publisher, and anyone who's been down that route will know how kind of soul destroying it is really. So I thought, well, I'll just write this and I'll put it up, for free and see if it's of interest to other people who enjoy Second Life. And that was really the beginning, really, because it's still for free. That first novel, it'll always be free. That first book, and within a few weeks, I was suddenly kind of enjoying that very odd new experience of being a writer with an audience, and so that kind of generates its own momentum. Once you have people reading your work and sending you comments about it and leaving reviews on your website, or as is more recently the case on Amazon, then that kind of just gives you a lot more kind of energy to do more, and enthusiasm. So there's been kind of 4 sequels to that. I wasn't going to write a sequel originally, but I think after about 4 or 5 years, I kind of relented, and then there's been various other kind of standalone books as well.
Is it okay if I share your Amazon link in the YouTube chat so people
I'd be delighted.
So I'm just going to share that. This is where you can get Huck's books. I actually picked up that free AFK book back in like 2008 or 9. I remember reading it and I was like, what is this? Is so interesting to read a book that's, set in Second Life. And that's how I actually first found out about you, through that AFK book. I haven't read the other
Right.
parts of the series. I need to check that out for sure. But that's very interesting. So your
Thank you.
latest project, STÖMOL, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So it's a movie filmed in Second Life, and it's a science fiction story. It kind of organically grew out of a number of things, really. It was, I'd been doing Second Life photography for a while, and experimenting with composition and so on. And I think we probably all agree that over the lifetime that we've been in Second Life, Second Life photography, kind of the quality and the range and the variety and the expression that we see in photographs on Flickr has just got better and better and better. It's amazing, some of the photographs that I see on Flickr. And I know I've improved a great deal over the years. I wouldn't put myself in the same bracket as many of the the really great Flickr photographers, but I did start wondering, well, maybe the next step is to take this to Machinima, because during the time when all this photography has been improving so much, Machinima as a mainstream genre, and obviously in this, as it was with photography, people were doing SL photographs for a long time before it became popular. So it was always a niche interest before it became a mainstream interest, and now it's a mainstream interest. But you had some amazing Second Life photographers before that. The one that comes to my mind, I hope I've remembered her correctly, is I think her name was Paula Talber.
Oh, yes.
Who she
Great
put on
work.
an exhibition. Yeah, amazing. And I was very privileged to get about an hour of her time, where she gave me a kind of a tour of the internet and taught me more in an hour about composition in photography than I think I'd learned in the preceding 10 years, really.
Yeah.
So photography's always been around in Second Life, and some people doing it amazingly. With Machinima, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe some machinists would shoot me down for saying this, but I kind of feel like we're still in that kind of pre-mainstream era with Machinima. That there are some people who do it and they do it very well, but it's not really become a mainstream kind of thing.
Definitely not. I think it's a lot trickier, so I think it's harder for the masses to kind of learn quickly, for sure.
It is tricky, and also, of course, you need a higher level of hardware, because
Oh, yes.
with photography, you don't have to have you don't have to have a real monster PC to kind of drop into ultra mode just for the 5 minutes that you need to take a photograph. But of course, if you're filming, then you need really to be able to kind of stay in that. So so that's that. And for a number of years, I've been meaning to do it. I remember seeing the movie Sin City and thinking, that kind of striking visual style. Surely, we could do something like that in Second Life. Something that looked like it was a comic book strip that had kind of come off the page and become a film. And
Was this your
that's kind of.
first Second Life film, or have you done any others?
Well, I've done little bits and pieces before. We were saying earlier on about the challenge that was put out a few years back. To make a video saying what the Second Life mean to you. That was kind of my first little kind of experiment with Machinima, and after that, I kind of did a very small number of kind of 3 or 4 minute shorts, which I called my kind of moving postcard kind of series, where I just go to a region and just kind of film it in places. I've got a bit of a thing about Machinima making too much use of the Space Navigator mouse. That when you're watching kind of Machinima clips, often there's a pan going on, or there's a flying cam, rising crane. It's always moving the camera. So for my moving postcards, the kind of the one guiding rule was that the camera didn't move. That something in the picture would be moving, but it wouldn't be the camera. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I did a 5 or 6 minute short called Pioneers, which was a little science fiction thing. Really, I think it was probably consisted of about, I don't know, at most 20 clips. Really, it wasn't anything like STÖMOL. So I guess I kind of regard STÖMOL as being my kind of first major project. And even when that began, it was at one stage going to be 15 minutes long, then it became half an hour, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. So it kind of started off as a seed and then just got bigger, really.
So I have to say the script is actually pretty adventurous. I don't want to give any spoilers out, but I've just found it really fascinating, and I'm just wondering, how did you come up with the script for STÖMOL, and what inspired it?
Well, I mean, I'm likely to burst some bubbles here, but and Kate will probably be smiling, but a lot of my work, and I'm quite passionate about this. Actually, if I drop back to novel writing and National Novel Writing Month, I do a workshop in Milkwood every year about doing the novel writing month. And the key thing about novel writing month is that you don't plan it out beforehand. You kind of arrive on the 1st of November with your paper and pencil, and you start writing, and you don't edit. You keep on going, and you basically let the novel guide you. So it's okay to not know how things are going to end. If you mentioned AFK earlier on, there's a very big twist at the end of AFK, which people often talk about, and I didn't actually work out that twist until about halfway through the novel. So similarly with with STÖMOL, it began as a very, very vague idea, which was what I can say is that I wanted to make a film about truth in some way from the start, and in a science fiction setting, and really. We just kind of jumped in and started filming, and then as new regions became available that would be good locations, we go take a look and think, well, we could do a scene like this, and gradually that story, the more precise story, kind of evolved out of doing those shoots, thinking about what they meant, having a sense of what they meant, then maybe going back and doing a few more kind of clips to make that a bit more kind of solid, really. And then really it wasn't until, I suppose probably about halfway through the main shoots that I had a really firm idea as to what was going to happen. And then the actual script itself, the actual dialogue, that wasn't done until probably I think it was about Easter this year, I think. So everything had been filmed, sound effects had been added. And that's when I kind of finally kind of committed to, the monologue bits, the narrative and the dialogue. Doing the dialogue for the actors where they had moving lips is really, really hard, because we wanted to try and sync that up as much as possible. So that was very much, a lot of those lines were kind of determined by kind of looking at those clips and kind of seeing what would fit. So I'm sorry if that presents a more kind of chaotic and haphazard view, but But in all seriousness, I think a lot of people are scared of doing stuff like that because they think they have to have everything planned out in advance. And actually, I think it's perfectly acceptable to just dive in and
Go with
really
the
see
flow.
where it takes you. Absolutely, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So how long did it take to, from start to finish for you to put this together?
Well, what about,
18 months, I
Are you
think.
yeah,
really?
yeah.
Wow.
February last year, Huck asked me, "Can you come over and pose for a shot I'm having in mind? For I'm doing a 10-minute film. Can you show up in such and such outfit?" And that was February 2019,
Wow.
and we never
Yeah,
stopped.
yeah,
So
It
it
just
started
went
with a
on.
10-minute and it ended up into a full feature film.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Basically, yeah,
Amazing. So
yeah.
I actually had the fortunate opportunity to see a pre-release version of STÖMOL, and no, I'm not going to give out any spoilers, even if you IM me and bribe me. Uh, just talking to the viewers. And I have to say, the cinematography is absolutely fantastic. I especially appreciate your compositions and angles and set design. So who shot the film, and do you have a background in cinematography? Well,
Well, I
no, yeah,
filmed it,
yeah.
and no, I don't have a background in cinematography. But thank you for even thinking for a moment that that was plausible. But I watch films. I think about films. Um, I guess there's a couple of things really. One is I wanted to shoot something that was very rich in color, and I'd not long beforehand seen Blade Runner 2049, which is just visually a stunning film. Not least for its use of color, but also I wanted to do something that was in places a little bit more still, a little bit slower paced, and there's we have a film critic in the UK, and I'm just trying to think what his name is. It's Mark something, I think. But he does a kind of a film radio show with regular DJ Simon Mayo every Friday evening, and he will review some films, but he'll also just kind of talk about kind of movie technique, in this. And he said that one of the things that students get taught, when they're going to, for want of a better word, movie school, but when they're learning about cinematography and direction and stuff, they'll be asked to kind of sit and watch a film, and they have to clap their hands every time the scene cuts. So every time the camera, you stop seeing the people in position A, and then you see them from position B instead, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And you show them a film from the 1960s, from the 1970s, and they're clapping really, really, really slowly because you've got really long scenes where you could properly immerse and be kind of present in the film. Whereas you show a film from today and it's like a really
Chop,
rapid,
chop, chop. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And I find modern films that are done in that way to be, they can be good eye candy, but never a sense of being in the film. So I guess when I was thinking about what kind of effect I would like to create visually, I was thinking very much about something where there was a bit more of a chance that people would feel like they were kind of present. So going for a few more kind of quite still scenes, a bit like my moving postcard series, where I would have a number of scenes where not much is moving in that shot, and obviously that enables you to then focus on composition a lot more.
It definitely grabs you, and then it's almost very calming because it's just you're so engrossed in the scene as it's going along, and it's not like it's not jumping here and there in the story. It's you just
Yeah.
kind of you're just watching to see, okay, what is going to happen next. So it's really interesting. You were talking about the lip syncing earlier, and that's one thing that I really noticed in the movie. With so many scenes, you had very realistic poses and animations, showering, different. I don't want to say too much of what was going on, but I thought it was fantastic, the use of the poses and animations in Second Life for multiple characters. So how did you accomplish this? Is this something that you created yourself for each kind of scene or thing, or did you just go out and purchase from other Second Life merchants and just try to figure out what would work best for what scene or scenario? I just thought they were just really well done.
It was hard,
I bet, yeah.
Yeah.
and I think Kate will attest to the fact that one of the things that I despaired of most of all was not being able to find a particular animation for or a particular pose for something that I kind of had visualized really.
Yeah.
So we used a combination of all of those things. Largely we were using kind of off the shelf animations and poses, and I can't remember now, but I think it's something like it's something in the region of about 40 different animators that we
Wow.
used their kind of products. But it was incredibly hard to find the right, I mean, a lot. You'll see in the film there are some scenes where a static pose has been used,
Yeah.
usually with some movement introduced, for example, through some camera kind of panning or something like that. But when it comes to actual animations, it's really hard because finding some really decent quality, kind of almost like motion capture quality kind of movement,
Yes. Yeah.
really on the marketplace and in the various animation stores, 90% of it is kind of dance, romance, or adult,
Right.
and actually we were looking for something a bit more kind of niche than that. There's a scene where the main character is engaged in a fight with with
Yes.
another guy on some kind of
Yeah.
some containers that
That
was
was
in.
well done, though.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
story behind that because I discovered that's the only couples fighting pose ball that I know of in Second Life, and
Wow.
believe me, I looked. You can get lots of poses for a single person, so you can get a pose where you can punch and all that sort of thing. But anything with a reaction from another person, I couldn't find it. And the frustrating thing was that I'd used that pose ball for like an animated GIF that I made about a year and a half beforehand, in a sim that I saw it in, and I remember thinking at the time when I made the animated GIF, maybe I should buy this, and I looked up the creator and went to the store and came that close to buying it, and for some stupid reason didn't. I mean, it wasn't even expensive, but I didn't get it.
Mhm.
Anyway, so when it came to doing this fight scene, having just looked everywhere for something and completely failed to find anything, I thought, well, I've got to find this original pose ball because I know it exists somewhere, and I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was called. But then eventually I stumbled across a blog review of the sim where I'd seen it in. I can't even remember what it was called now. It's somewhere that doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, so when I saw the blog review and it mentions the people who had created that sim, I then kind of got in touch. Well, I sent them an IM in Worlds. They didn't reply, and I can't remember. Oh, eventually I think I got a reply via offline IM because they both basically weren't active in Second Life anymore, and so they eventually agreed that they would come in and tell me what it was, and so they came in World and sent me, and I
Wow.
then went and looked at it,
You
and it,
really hunted that down.
oh my goodness, we just
Weeks and weeks.
oh, it was so long
Wow.
and so painful,
It
and
was
anyway we
worth it.
couldn't. Well, the thing is, we couldn't find it in the end, and the
Oh.
creator is no longer active. The shop was no longer there, so I got back in touch with them and said, "Look, could you please come in and just lend me your pose ball?" Which they, bless them, they did.
Oh.
Again, it was about a week before they were able to come in World, and so they finally came in and resed it, and this was the final day that the sim was open. Sorry, the
Oh
region
my
was open.
region.
So we literally had, like a couple of hours to do this,
Mhm.
scene, and then of course the region was gone. So it was really really hard to find good animations,
Down to the
which
wire.
surprised me actually.
Yeah.
Given that an animation is an animation, it's something from 2010, is perfectly usable. It's not
Yeah.
one of those things that ages, but yeah,
Oh,
fun.
wow. Well, I think it was worth it because in the end, it was a great addition to the film.
Yeah.
Once everybody sees, they'll know what we're talking about. So, definitely worth it. So, aside from the animations, I also loved the look and feel of the film when it comes to lighting. So, can you talk a little bit about how you accomplished that?
I mean, we use a couple of really wonderful wind lights that I believe are by Torley originally.
Oh, yes.
So I can't remember the names of them, but one's a very kind of strong, kind of orangey kind of light, and the other is pink. The context of that, in the story is that this is set in I don't know, about some
Right.
50 or 60 years in the future, and kind of climate collapse has kind of happened really, and the air is full of particles, which kind of colors the sky, so that you have in city regions a very strong kind of orangey kind of air tints to the air, and further away from that, it's kind of more of a kind of pink kind of hue. But I kind of wanted it to be something that was visually kind of very colourful, very kind of attractive to look at.
I was inspired. I had to change my studio for today to go with the same kind
Yeah,
of
we see very much in
dystopian.
theme.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
with the theme a little bit.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Are you able to share some of the locations that were used for the shoot, or were they mostly sets that you guys built yourself?
Yeah, well, we mostly use locations.
Wow.
There's a couple of exceptions to that. So there's some kind of underground scenes at one point where I just built that, but that was really straightforward. I just needed a few rectangular prims and a concrete texture, and and a light source. So
Right.
nothing too complex there. But no, we filmed extensively in Drune. I don't know if people are familiar with Drune, but it's a science fiction kind of cyberpunk kind of sim that kind of um, goes through phases. Really, the Hera, the builder, she likes to have it up for a month and then take it all down and then kind of reinterpret it in some new way, and then it'll go up again. So we kind of made several visits to Drune and its various iterations. That's currently not online. But there's a couple of places that we use that are still online. So Hangars Liquide is a very big and well-known kind of sci-fi kind of cyberpunky. It's not even a region really. I think it's
No,
about.
it's
I
an
think it's about.
estate. Yeah.
It's about five. I
5 or
think it's.
6 regions, I
It's a
think.
city.
Yeah,
It
it's a
is.
city
Okay, yeah.
with more cities, and yeah.
I
Cyber.
just shared the landmark in the YouTube chat if anybody is
Okay. Yeah.
interested in visiting. So that was
Yeah.
one of the locations. Where else?
And that we kind of ended up on as well, and we wanted
Hmm.
to have a really kind of grand kind of location to finish in, really, which is and then along the way, Cocoon is a place that I used in a couple of scenes, which is also, I think, a fairly long established, more of a role play science fiction sim, but another really well put together. The great thing about Cocoon is that they've got kind of, I don't know if they're animesh or not, they might be, but they've got a number of kind of, I think the technical term is, I don't know
NPCs. NPCs.
what does that sound for again?
Oh, right.
Non-playing characters.
Right.
Thank you. Which they kind of, and a few of those doubled as extras in a couple of the shots towards the beginning of the film. And then a whole bunch of regions that don't exist anymore. So there's the container city, which is called Container, but spelled phonetically, but using a different letters than you would ordinarily expect. And that was by Lotus. I only ever think of them as Lotus and Fred's, but I think it's I want to say Lotus Mastrioni or something like that, and Fred Hamilton. I think those are the names. That was up for about a month, and we also did a few kind of jokey kind of behind the scenes photos in a film studio that they erected kind of later on in the year. There's I think it was Huntington Beach was the scene. There's kind of like an oil field kind of
Oh,
chase scene, and that was by That was by Jade, I think. I can't. I'm terrible at names.
Jade Kotai.
Thank you very much. And we did a bit in Fuilen. That's Serene.
Serene
Footman.
Footman. Yeah.
And gosh, where else?
Nunox.
Nunox, of course. Yeah, Nunox we used. Nunox was kind of like the home for the film when Droom was down, and so for a while the apartments that we used. That's now kind of, I then went ahead and purchased that and used it as a separate set, but that was originally in Nunox, and so we had permission to film there and did quite a bit of stuff in Nunox. Cherish Film which is a very popular photography sim, because there's a bit in the film which kind of goes back to nature, as it were, and that was done there. Of course, Cherishville kind of tends to update from the seasons, so every
How
season.
did you find all these locations? Sounds like it was as much as an endeavor for the sound and animations, or the poses and animations. Yeah,
it was, and I guess the difficult thing would be was when you're filming there, and then you learn that the region's going to close in 2 days' time.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
We use Flickr a lot to find. When we saw pictures, that might be a good spot, and then go there. And often when Huck was filming, I was exploring around, always having the movie in my mind.
That makes sense. Yeah. So, is there a favorite scene that you have in the? Or can you share why it is your favorite as well, without any spoiler, obviously?
I can tell you mine.
Yeah, go for it.
I have a few favorite, but I think the most favorite is the one where my character Waarheid meets STÖMOL, or the other way around. If you.
Oh yes, I remember that scene. That was awesome.
It was the way it looks now is really awesome. But I think we had a lot of fun shooting that. I think that's why it's my favorite. We initially shot it in Drone.
Mm-hmm.
And then half, it wasn't finished yet, and then we wanted to go back one evening to finish the clip, and Drone was gone. So then we went to Nunox, I think, and redid the whole scene, which only made it better in the end, I think, because by then I sort of got the hang of. Those were solo animations. You see, it's a fight, and not a couple, but because we only had one, so that was kind of fun to do. The timing of pressing the button to get the animation to work. I think it. And I walked into a lot of walls for that shot. Before I think I drove Huck nuts, because I had to do a certain walk from behind a pillar or something. I think I walked into that pillar 400 times before I finally had it on film. So that was. But no, I really enjoyed doing that scene. Not sure what Huck's favorite is. I can guess.
What's your favorite, Huck?
I think my favorite would have to be there's kind of like an action scene towards the end of the film, which was hugely challenging. It took us about 2 months just to film that. I think it's about 2 minutes of footage. So I guess I'd probably go with that, because I know just how much work went into that scene. But I guess going back to the bit about walking into pillars, one of the problems with doing scenes like this is that if you're filming somebody walking, which I do quite a bit in the film, then it's kind of got to be in one straight line. In Second Life, when we're walking around, we tend to be kind of constantly adjusting our kind of direction. So you walk in this way a bit, and then you kind of nudge yourself right, and then you nudge yourself left, and then to avoid walking into this, you get Whereas obviously for it to kind of look natural, then you really need people to do it in one line. So no changing direction, and that's the tricky bit, and you have to kind of practice it over. And it sounds like it's a really easy thing, but it's not. You have to do it over and over and over to make sure you've got a nice clear path, and you're not going to walk into anything and have to change direction halfway through.
That was actually my next question. I was going to ask you what were the challenges of filming in Second Life for the director as well as the actors. So that's one thing is running into walls, like Caitlin was saying.
Yeah.
What are some of the other challenges that you guys faced?
Well, I can tell you from an actress perspective. I think the most challenging was we did everything in IM, so nothing with voice. So
Right.
everything was in text. So Huck would tell me, I need you to stand there and then do this. And often I had not really an idea what the scene was about, really. He just told me, you stand here, then walk there, or turn around, or to the left, to the left, to the right, other side, and so on. Close your eyes, open your eyes. And that was all in IM. So for me, I needed to really understand what he meant. I think I did well because Huck could explain it pretty short and clear. Though I think we've had scenes that I completely missed what he meant, and that could have been frustrating for the both of us. It didn't happen that often, but I think the lack of seeing each other. If you do a video in real life with actual people, you point out what you want, and you can sort of gesture with your hands, go left, go right. And the way we did it or had to do it in text was quite a challenge, I think. But yeah,
How about
maybe
you, Huck?
the director has another challenge.
I mean, it certainly was a challenge, trying to figure out how to kind of write it down in a way that made sense. I guess people are probably thinking, why make things harder than they need to be? Why not just do it in voice? I guess partly it's because I know myself really well, and I'm using people's time here. I'm using Kate's time. I'm using Ilva's time. I'm using Mitch's time. I'm using Boo's time. And I'm going to have to ask sometimes for the same thing over and over and over again, and I can't really trust myself to do that in voice because I know I'm going to start letting irritation creep in, and that's just not fair on the actors. They're giving me my time at the end of the day. And I owe them, not the other way around. So it's better. It's easier for me then to just kind of think about what I want to say and just to kind of write it down as a written instruction, really. And that seems to work best. But it is quite challenging, And I'd say other challenges are things, we've already mentioned finding the poses. That was a huge challenge. Getting stuff done before a sim closed, and then just generally trying to kind of visualize how I was going to do something when I didn't have the kind of the poses and the animations that I wanted. What kind of how to tell a story, through the camera angles and the various different kind of shots, really. But I think we got there in the end.
So there are some questions coming in on the YouTube chat as well. People are asking, was Warhide? It's Varhide or something. That's the character's name.
Varhide.
Right. So
yes.
is she a bit like the Fifth Element? Is that what she was kind of based on? And I'm just going to actually mention as well that I do have some merchandise here that you guys have given me to it's some 3 characters from the film, and this merchandise is available along with some trading cards and other things. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the merchandise, Huck, that you have available?
Yeah, I mean, this is I know at one level I know this is all bonkers. I know it's all crazy, but
it's great.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's it's one of those. It's been such a long project, and as I said earlier on, it was never intended to take this long, and it's just right up until fairly kind of late on in it, I was thinking, will I ever finish this thing? And so it's done now, and I kind of feel in a bit of a celebratory mood, and we're going to have a bit of a premiere event just for for a few people, and I thought, how can we kind of spruce up the foyer, to make it look a bit more eventy? And so I made some kind of very basic cutouts, and Kate came along and said, "Oh, you should do it with the so it looked like cardboard stand-ups." And I thought, well, actually, I'm going to do that, and not only will I do it for here, I'll also let's see if I can make some merch, and so I've basically put like 100 of them on the marketplace. It's a limited kind of quantity,
Oh,
and then there's a kind of a poster, and then my favorite bit of it all was making up some trading cards, which was just the biggest waste of time in my life, really. But and yet so much fun, really, because I really like, I got to kind of research 1970s and 1980s trading cards, and I'm kind of like, I like disappearing down into those kind of rabbit holes and finding out all about. And I found that actually, people creating trading card designs for movies that never had trading cards, that's a thing. People do that. They kind of make retrospective trading card design, which is just a brilliant thing to discover on the internet. So yeah, there's about 50 packs of the trading cards on my store.
nice.
Once they're gone, they're gone. But who knows? Maybe they'll become collector's items. Probably not. But
So if you guys want some, just look up Huckleberry Hacks on the marketplace, or I actually have links to his blog in the description of the video, and you've blogged about all the merchandise, so they should be able to find
yeah,
it on your blog.
yeah.
So that's great. So those are three characters. Obviously, the first, I'm just going to kind of cam in a little bit. The first one is STÖMOL himself,
Mhm.
and then we have Varhide, and what was the third character I have here?
That's a Deverell.
Right. So there were a lot of characters in this film, and the voice acting was actually very impressive. Did you hire professional voice actors, or are they all just Second Life residents that you kind of nabbed?
Yeah, they're just us.
It's just you.
Yeah, it's us
Wow.
too.
It was the voice acting was actually really well done, especially there was one girl that was so realistic with the way she was just kind of mumbling, and I'm like, wow, this is sounds like a real person, like like how people normally talk. So it was great to see. So it was just
Boudica.
your friends.
It's
Yeah,
the actors.
it's the people who
It's
you
the
see.
avatars,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Somebody in YouTube chat is also asking why there's an accent above the O in STÖMOL.
Because
Yeah.
I can't answer that with
Mhm.
any kind of integrity, really. It looks good.
Yeah.
It does
I'm
look
really
good. It
sorry.
makes it more
I can't.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have a better answer than that. But yeah, it was just a design choice. So good question. You got me there.
All right, so New World Notes. I'm sure everybody has heard of the blog that is run by Hamlet. He has been a very enthusiastic supporter of your production with some great pre-release press. There seems to
Yeah.
be a great buzz about it. So, has the reaction from everybody surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful to Hamlet for the attention that he's kind of given the project, because you start something like this, and hopefully what I've conveyed here is that this is really completely new territory to me. I didn't know what I was doing half the time, and it was all learning. And you do it, and it grows and grows and grows, and you start thinking, am I just wasting, like hours and months of my life on this? Who am I fooling here? And so you start editing it, and just learning how to edit at that level was incredibly challenging, and you do start to worry that you're kind of just creating something that absolutely no one is going to find interesting in the slightest. And of course, I go through that whenever I'm doing National Novel Writing Month in November, but that's for 30 days. I can suspend disbelief for 30 days. A year, 18 months is a little bit of a harder ask, really. So, when I put up the, I think it was just a poster. I created a blog post. I think it was about last September, October, something like that.
Hmm.
And by that stage, I'd spent, the best part of 6, 7 months on the project, and I'd kind of got so far into it that I thought, no, I've really got to make this a thing now. I've got to commit to finishing it, and one way of doing that is to put something up on my blog saying I am doing this. Because up until that point, I hadn't really
Push
told
yourself further,
anyone.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Once I've kind of made it official, then I kind of have to finish
Right.
it.
You have
And I
to
was
get it
getting a bit,
done.
yeah, I was getting a bit jaded at that point because it just gone for so much time.
Hmm.
And I think it was just from seeing that poster that Hamlet got in touch and was saying, this looks really interesting. Is there going to be a trailer? And I hadn't even thought about doing a trailer. I had no intention of making a trailer. But then, and the thing that's really good about Hamlet is, if you say to him, "Oh yeah, I might do that," he'll say, "So when am I going to have it?"
Right.
And that then kind of committed me to getting that to him just at the beginning of the year. I kind of thought, right, okay, I'll do that over the over the Christmas break. I'll get that done. I'll get that to the beginning of January, and then so he ran it on his blog, and yeah, he's just been really enthusiastic about it, and that kind of was the energy that I kind of needed really to get me kind of back into kind of listening to it and getting the thing done.
He's very encouraging. He's pulled that on me in the past when I was just before Linden Lab, when I was blogging. He'd be very encouraging and kind of pushing me. Why don't you do this?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's very good at that. So there was a recent post on his blog that I saw,
Yes.
and there was a comment in one of the articles from someone who expressed concerns about diversity and representation. So presumably they haven't seen the film yet. So is there something you want to say about that? I thought that was an interesting comment.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment. I mean, the comment was that it's effectively it's yet another all white cast, and technically that's not quite true. There is a person of color in the film, although it wasn't perhaps obvious from that from the image that was on Hamlet's blog.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a fairly small part, and I think it's a fair comment to make about the film. Because it was a film that basically kind of grew from nothing, and I was effectively kind of adding bits onto it as I went. That really my main strategy when it came to involving people in the film, actors, was to approach people that I know, and the vast majority of people that I know, potentially to my shame, have white avatars. But I think it's a fair criticism to make of the film, and I think that my if it's a valid excuse that that it was something that completely evolved from nothing, then I guess that's possibly my only pass on that, because if I do another film, then I know that I can do it, and I must aim to do it better than I did it before, and I think that would involve throwing a wider net out to the community in terms of looking for avatars and actors and so on, really. So yeah, hopefully something that I can improve upon, but I can't, with my hand on my heart, say that isn't a fair comment to make about it.
Well, that's a fair answer, and I look forward. I hope there is more to come from you aside from this, and maybe I can sneak my way into future projects somehow.
Oh,
love to be a part of
you're
it.
on.
Noted.
So another great thing about the film that I noticed was the music. I loved it. So can you tell us a little bit about the original music that was used?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was actually one of my blocks to doing a feature, any kind of long machinima in Second Life, because one of the things that I discovered fairly early on when I was doing the moving postcard things and then the Pioneers short film was that obviously music is a landmine is a minefield even in when it comes to YouTube. There's obviously a range of YouTube makes available a whole bunch of kind of royalty-free stuff that everyone's heard those songs now so many times over in X number of YouTube channels. They're almost kind of cliched in how frequently you hear them. And there are a few sites here and there which offer royalty-free music. I think his name is Kevin MacLeod. I used one of his tracks for the Pioneers short, but I didn't really want to create something that was long, that was making use of this kind of royalty-free music. I wanted to have my own music, and unfortunately, that's just not something that I have a talent in myself. But I do know somebody. I've known somebody who I've been friends with in real life for about the last 30 odd years, and who has been creating music for that time, and indeed longer than that, but doesn't really display it or showcase it, doesn't do anything with that, because it's a very personal thing to him, and I've always respected that. But he often sends me little bits that he's done, and I remember thinking, and it was the piece of music actually that I used in the kind of the out credits. I remember thinking, this would be great, as a piece of music, in a science fiction kind of film. And I said to him, how would you feel about me using some of these pieces of music, for this project, and I showed him some of the the very few at the time kind of clips that I'd created, and he said yes. So over the time that I've been doing it, he's there's some bits that he wrote specifically for the film, and there's other bits which are tracks that he'd written beforehand which I've used, and I really hope that this gets him a little bit of an audience, really.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Wonderful. So you had somebody actually do original music for this. No wonder
Yeah,
it didn't sound familiar at all, and it was just great and added a lot to the story.
yeah.
So this is a huge project. What advice would you give for aspiring machinima artists in Second Life, videographers? Are there any specific tips and tricks that you want to share about creating a movie in Second Life? For example, I'm going to give you some scenes that I really noticed. There were some long, smooth tracking shots that followed the main character walking for long distances down streets with everything fully res. Like, how did you accomplish this? What's your magic? Tell us all your secrets, please.
um, I mean, if you're a true beginner, then there's a series of kind of tutorials that I published on my blog. I
Oh,
think they're up to
yes.
about part 5, which will tell you kind of the kind of mechanics of how you focus in on a particular part, whilst they're moving along and so on. So the mechanics of how to do a shot like that are kind of covered in those blog posts. But I know what you're saying here. There's lots of people have that difficulty of things going out of out of draw
Derezzing and stuff,
distance,
yeah.
and derezzing
Hmm.
and all that sort of thing. I mean, there's various tricks. I mean, some of those shots where STÖMOL is kind of walking on the streets are from the side. So when I was filming a shot from the side, it tended to be because that narrows the the background. If you're filming from the side, you've just got like the shot fronts and stuff like that. Because once you go beyond that, if you kind of zoom out too far, then yes, things start to
Right.
derez. Obviously trying to keep draw distance down to the minimum that you can get away with when you're doing that, because although sticking with the side shots, obviously the character is kind of moving along, and so new scenery is kind of scrolling in behind the character, so obviously that does have to res, and having draw distance down will hopefully mean
Yeah.
that's a little bit smoother. I think I know the one particular shot that you're referring to, where he's kind of walking down this
Yes.
street and you see the whole kind of vista. So that
Amazing
was
shot. Amazing,
that
I have
was
to say.
that was Drune. That was an
Okay.
iteration of Drune, and Hira actually let me into Drune on that occasion a couple of days before the region was open to the public. So what I had there was as an advantage was that there was nobody else in the region whilst I was filming. So, and of course, obviously, other people being around,
That helps. Yeah.
vastly, impacts on that. So, although obviously that's not something that would necessarily be available to everyone trying to do some machinima, you could look at popular places for when might be a good time to go, when actually there aren't so many people
Yeah.
around at that time. And of course, the other thing you can do, I'm not sure if you can do this in the official viewer, but in Firestorm, which I use, you can de-render people, so you can actually kind of get rid of people, which will then obviously have
Help.
a
Yeah.
positive impact. So yeah, I think that covers that.
So, are there other Second Life machinima makers that you admire? How do you connect with others who share an interest in making movies? Were you inspired by others? Anything like that?
I mean, hopefully, what I've communicated in this is that I'm a complete novice at all of this, so I'm not really
Yeah.
connected to the machinima community at all. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, obviously, the same as everybody else. I
Yeah.
know Tutsi Nirvana, who has been doing some great machinima for a long time, but obviously his work is very kind of art
Yeah.
focused. What I wanted to do was to use machinima
Tell
to
a
tell a
story.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of machinima that's out there is much more about creating an effect or a feeling, or a more kind of, perhaps more kind of visceral kind of impact, if you like.
Right.
Um, but obviously that's not what I was achieving. I will say that what I did. I don't think what I've done is completely without precedent. I remember being hugely impressed, and by I don't know if you remember Canary Beck's.
Oh yes.
Was it Paradise Lost? It was Paradise
Yes.
Lost, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which she actually hired someone to come in and to film that, and that really blew me away at the time. I mean, I think it was something like an hour long. That
Yeah.
video. And it was just the scale of the project, really, and that I think that contributed to kind of sowing the seed that this is doable to create something.
This can be done. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how do most people share their machinima? Mostly on YouTube, and also, I know that you're also having a premiere. Can you tell us where people will be able to find STÖMOL once it's released, when it's going to be released, and can you tell us a little bit more about the premiere?
So it's going to be on YouTube,
Fabulous.
and that will be obviously kind of free for all to watch. We hope that everybody watches it and enjoys it. It'll be it's kind of premiering on next Thursday. That's July the 23rd.
Okay.
And what we're going to do, we are having a little kind of event in World, and that's going to be on my kind of parcel. So it's fairly limited. So that's kind of an invitation only. People we're basically reaching out to the film's actors, to region owners who helped us out. There's a couple of people who made stuff that were really helpful to us. So that's kind of our kind of thanking them for both allowing us to film, allowing us to use their stuff, but also being incredibly patient, because some of those people I asked a year ago plus if I could, and told them what I was doing, and then they had nothing from me. So that's going to happen then. And now, because we're going to be doing like we're going to be using an in-world kind of YouTube kind of viewer for that. I just discovered that there's an issue with HTML5 and MP4 video in which I think is a well-known legal thing for Firestorm. But what it means is that YouTube has like a premiere kind of feature where you can it'll kind of count down, and people who are watching on YouTube will get to see like nice sort of fancy animation. That doesn't work when you're showing it in World. So as a consequence of that, it's basically going to be kind of private, the video, right up until the moment where we kind of release it. So I will be kind of I'll be releasing that URL onto my blog, onto my social media in the next couple of days, and it'll take you to a page that says this video is not available. Don't panic. It's just that's the best way of me managing it, so that I can do the showing it in World event at the same time that everybody's watching it, kind of live online, if that makes sense.
Great. So it's going to be on your YouTube channel, Huckleberry Hacks, I believe. They can find it on your blog as well. And I have linked to this trailer, which is also on your YouTube channel, in the description of the video. So hopefully people will subscribe. And that's going to go live, you said, Thursday, July 23rd at 3 p.m.?
3 p.m. SLT,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. The premiere, you are giving away 2 free tickets. It's like a private premiere for... like you were saying. So is there a way for people to win the tickets right now?
Yeah, so we're doing that with Hamlet on New World Notes. So if you go to my Twitter feed, you'll see, I think it was a few tweets ago, a link to Hamlet's post about that. So yeah, if what you need to do is you need to send me a note card in World, making sure it's got your account name in the main body of the text, and to say that you'd like to be entered into that draw. And then we're going to, the deadline I think is something like 4 p.m. on Sunday, and then we'll kind of choose a couple of names at random from that, and then they can come to that to the private premiere event, and get to meet the cast, and so on and so forth.
So this is great. So this is a private premiere that you're doing, very personal, and it's invite only, and people can try to win 2 tickets. There is something else that's going on that I will make an official announcement right now.
Yes.
So the film goes live on YouTube on Thursday. On Friday, the day after, Friday, July 24th, at 3 p.m., in collaboration with Linden Lab, we are going to do a live stream screening in World. It will be open to the public. It will be available. We will have 4 regions available. So everybody can come and watch the film together at 3 p.m. on Friday, July 24th. We will have more information about that next week sometime. Watch our Second Life community blogs. The links are in the description of the video. We'll announce that sometime next week. You'll know the location. It will be on the destination guide. And hopefully, I'm hoping a lot of the cast and crew will be there. I know you two are. Are there the other casts going to be there too?
I think so, yes.
Yep. We've contacted them all. They're all up for it. So yeah,
Awesome.
In costume.
Yeah,
in costume. Amazing. So you can watch the film when it's released on Thursday, or you can wait till Friday and watch it with the cast and crew. Come down on July 24th at 3 p.m. And there will also be, you guys will do a little Q&A before, possibly. We were thinking we'll do it before we start the film, maybe 10-15 minutes. You can answer some questions, and then we'll get into filming. If you guys are up for it.
Yes.
So yeah, watch out on the blogs for that. Looking forward. So my last question, I'm looking at Yahoo. I don't know why I'm saying Yahoo. YouTube chat. I don't see any more right now. So my last question for you: are there any plans for a sequel or follow-up projects? And is Strawberry able to be in them? I just want to be in one. It's so exciting. It was so amazing to watch.
Yeah, once you've tired of my constant instructions to walk along the corridor for the 20th time, you might not be so keen on that. I don't know. It's the first time I've done something like this, and Kate will attest to the fact that I've many times said I'm never doing anything like this ever again.
Every week.
But probably there will.
But it's rewarding.
It is rewarding, and actually being able to come and do things like this is a great reward for sticking with it. I don't think there's going to be a sequel. I think this is something that would be probably spoiled by a sequel. But maybe something different. We'll see.
Great. So that's great to hear. Thank you so much, Caitlin and Huck. It's we went for an hour. Wow. I think hopefully we covered. I know I still have more questions, but I think I think we'll leave it till after people get to watch the film, and we have more questions coming in, but I think we'll leave it for now. But thank you so much to Caitlin and Huck, and to all the viewers for watching. Do you want to? Any last words for our viewers before we end it here?
Well, I really hope that that you enjoy the film. Hope you enjoy it. I hope it lives up to the hype.
Yeah, and I hope everyone comes to Friday with a big live screening.
Yes, I think it'll be fun.
Yeah,
it will be.
There's going to be a lot of Lindens there too. We're all very excited to watch it together. So
that always helps. It will be a real movie night. While it's hard now in real life to go to the cinemas,
right?
You can go in Second Life to the cinema, to the premiere, or cinema.
We'll all watch the film together. It'll be exciting.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, guys. I'm so excited about the film, and I'm excited to do the screening next week. Everybody watching, thank you for your questions, and keep an eye on our Second Life community blogs for future announcements about LabGab, about STÖMOL, about the screening, and all of that. And remember, stay home, stay safe, stay virtual. I will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.